Hey people, you're on the Dodger Dave YouTube channel, and I'm going to take us back in time, kind of a little time machine thing to yesterday, talking about the day before, and probably be rather vulnerable here. I'm going to kind of show a little bit of my world again, and of course yesterday I was, showing people that the jaw infection is a lot better than if it was out here. Yeah. So I don't want to be redundant. Dodger, LA Dodger. I think, I got to throw some kind of informational stuff in here. I will throw in one more personal item here. Why? Why is it called the Dodger Dave channel now? It was Dodger Game channel. Where did I come up with that? What did the Dodgers have to do with me in my life so important that a channel on Mormonism was named Dodger? Was what was that guy? Oh, Jedi. Mormon Jedi? Jedi Mormon. God, I'm really sorry. He's probably wiped out now. I've tried to contact the guy through the comments. Probably he had a health problem, which I'm sorry about because I kind of liked Jedi Mormon. I don't think he was as bad as some people thought he was. He's probably, I don't know. He's probably a little bit too mind washed. I think he was a genuine guy. But he'd say, "You're dodging the issues. You're dodging the truth." Some other person, I was going to say other idiot, but I don't want to call Jedi an idiot or infer it there, said something stupid or ignorant like that recently. But there actually is a story behind it. And also, in what you'll see, at the 1333 mark, which I will mark obviously with a 1333, yeah, that's just where it happened to be when we got done with that portion. What follows could be traumatizing for people. Basically, it's me singing a couple songs. Not because I'm that bad. Well, it could be a copyright issue too, hopefully not. But it's just me experiencing or going through something that helps me to cope with the intense pain that I experience on a daily basis, and that gets triggered by various stimuli, various triggers. It could be music, could be a place I go that reminds me of where I've been with people that I love and have lost, either through, when my wife took off with the children, when I was having my nervous breakdown, or when my son was murdered, whom we had come back to save, and who did overcome heroin without the institutionalized stuff being of any value. We actually did it on our own, using something a little bit more intelligent than like the NA cult. Yeah, if you look at what it's based on and who channeled it and so forth, you might learn it's not all it's cranked up to be. You can't do it without us. So, anyway, if watching me basically self-trigger singing the songs that pull me through, really re-experiencing a lot of feelings, but that happens to me all the time, and maybe it allows me to just get it out there, my feelings of grief and loss. And if you don't want to deal with that, don't watch that part. So it'll be the length of the two songs basically as soon as they start, which would be Gone Away by The Offspring, singing basically to my son, and then singing also Jumper by Third Eye Blind. And of course I'm shitty at this and it's unrehearsed. I just did it because that's what I felt like after watching my daughter's music video that had Matthew in it a little bit, and always the amount of trauma that I suffer I'm probably one of those people that has a lot of very, very intense feelings, more than some people, maybe more than a lot of people. and the level of pain that I experience is enormous sometimes. And I'm generally not hiding or numbing myself from it. I know a lot of people have used that kind of, well, at least not through, drugs and alcohol. It doesn't mean I never have a beer or some wine or something, but, I've known plenty of people that have really gotten addicted to stuff that they use to try to numb the pain. And to function and to work and to do things I got to do, I have to, I got to be sober, I'm driving, that sort of a thing. It's not my luxury to to numb myself like that, and I really don't agree with the psychotropic pharmaceutical industry at all. And so many of those drugs just trash you in so many ways. Oh, we'll cure up your skin. Of course, you might have a heart attack and your left nut will fall off, and you'll go blind and won't be able to hear. And if that occurs, call your doctor. Okay, so the time machine will start shortly. I'm going to put on another hat. Which one will it be? It's time to get very studious. This is my 1000-Freund Hut. 1000-friend hat. Looking to get to 1,000 subscribers pretty soon. Yeah. That new LDS chick leaving the church, well, she's already halfway there after about 2 months. Well, and Jimmy Snow's at like 200,000, and he started like 5 weeks after me because he's so much better than me, right? Couldn't have anything to do with the politically correct agenda or that he went to BYU, and same as almost all of these people did who are on both sides of the coin and still seem to get along just fine with each other, like it's all just a game, like we're all actors, like the politicians and the sports teams. Anyway, let's get studious. Look, Stewie, it's Dan Vogel with hair. Okay, I don't have to get that studious. When I was a kid, I was being brought up in a household. I was the first child. And my mom and dad did not get along at all. Well, maybe at all sometimes. But my dad had bumped his head rather hard as a child. As a 17-year-old child, class president, student body president, wasted at lunch, and on a moped-ish, tote goat, whatever you want to call them. One of those, a motorcycle that was not quite, it wasn't a man's motorcycle. No helmet, face plant into somebody's radiator, and he was knocked out for 3 weeks. So he didn't get to go to a 4-year university on the first year. They put him through a JC, even though my grandfather was, kind of a big deal at USC, I guess. He's a baseball player. Well, he got kicked off the team. Grandma was a professor there. Or professors is, I don't know. She was helping out. That's how he met her. She was involved in teaching while she was a student. Anyway, they were like pretty heavy achievers, and he was kind of wild. And my dad was given about 8 cars that he wrecked drunk driving and survived. He went off Mount Baldy Road end over end twice, drunk, and survived both times. And at any rate, this particular time, he received some brain damage, evidently. So he went to a JC and had some tutoring for the next year. The alcoholism continued. He was a good guy in a lot of ways. However, the level of alcoholism was affecting their lives greatly, along with whatever brain damage he had. So communication was such that my mom would try to communicate something with my dad, and then the next day he wouldn't even remember their conversation. So I lived in a place where, I saw my mom banging her head against the wall as a 4-year-old, and I felt helpless. So I felt alone against the world for a lot of reasons. I felt like I was being locked in my room too much, and I didn't feel I should be getting hit as a little child. When I was 2 years old, it was way before 3. I was like 2, maybe 1.5. I was a toddler, and it was before we moved when I was 3. So, I just remember this long, boot thing. What do you call it? Shoehorn. Yeah, it was like made out of some kind of plastic. It was red. It used to be in the front hall closet, and I used to get beat with it. A kid in diapers getting the shit beat out of him. My dad was, like I said, he was a nice guy when alcohol wasn't a problem, but alcohol was a problem too much of the time early on. I remember when that thing broke, how happy I was. Yeah, I can see that in my mind, and I was just a tiny little person at that time. So some of these things add up to the fact that I felt alone against the world. And there I was watching television by myself as a little child a lot, in a situation where, the factors for trauma were great. I would listen to Handel with my mom. I would listen to Madame Butterfly and have it pointed out to me as a 4-year-old. This is when she was killing herself because her husband, who was also married to a woman in the United States, was ditching her, the lady in Japan, Madame Butterfly. So I encountered a lot of stuff as a small child that was very traumatic, watching someone be murdered. It was on television, but I believe it was live. I'm not talking just a movie. I'm talking about a live event that helped shape my life and my thoughts, my concerns about living forever, which is why I was seeking religion as a small child. I remember talking with another child for long enough that the teacher came and found us in first grade. He was a Catholic boy, and I was asking him all the questions about his religion, learning about purgatory and that sort of thing. So I was very inquisitive. I'd asked my mom when I first started going to this new school, because we left California when she left my dad and moved to the other side of the country. My grandfather worked in Washington, D.C. He was kind of an important person there. And I asked, what religion should I tell everyone that I am? This is a 6-year-old saying this. She said, just tell them you're a Unitarian. And I thought, does that mean I'm supposed to wear some little white yarmulke or something? But that's what I visualized at the time. So I had a lot of thoughts about this kind of stuff. Anyway, I felt alone against the world. When we came back to Southern California, I was, yes, I hate to sound like Joseph Smith, but I was persecuted there. I don't know, it's because I was from California or something. I can't say what it was, but other boys would gang up on me. I remember being in a rock fight. It was a 10-on-1. Even my own brother was against me. I got hit here, I got hit here, might have got hit in the face. No, I didn't get hit in the face. Got hit in the neck and here. Anyway, it was me alone against the world. So the icon on television, I watched a lot of war stuff, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. A lot of war things, Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, scary stuff for children. Later, The Night Gallery, and one that I'm going to mention shortly here. I'll mention it now. Dark Shadows, which involved a lot of witchcraft. And there I was, 7 years old, and so I felt alone against the world, and the man who was alone against the world that I could see as a 7-year-old, don't let your ADL programming get to you. I wasn't just an evil child. Was Adolf Hitler. So I named my pet tortoise Adolf Hitler as a 7-year-old. No parent was influencing that. And I asked to send me to German school on Saturdays so I could learn the language of the Third Reich as a 7-year-old. Yes. Okay, Dodger's fucking nuts, right? Um, which I continued for 2 years on Saturdays. And mind you, I hated school, at least in LA County. I actually liked it back in Montgomery County, Silver Spring, Maryland. But it was much higher grade there. I felt like I was achieving and learning rather than being bored out of my mind. So I studied German for those 2 years. At that time, I asked for records with military songs. I mean, I was really into it. And then in third grade, my teacher, Mrs. Wilson, sat down with my parents and said, "You know, your son, David, I think he needs to see a psychiatrist." "Why would that be, Mrs. Wilson?" "Well, we find swastikas all over his work. His favorite color is black. He dates his papers in the year 1796 in accordance with what he's watching on Dark Shadows, the witchcraft of the Collins Illuminati family in Salem, Massachusetts. Other than that, he's quite a normal boy." Yeah, so I tried that, and I answered the questions well enough, which were, "Well, David, if you had 3 wishes, what would they be?" I said, well, I was 8 years old. I said, "Live forever, fly, and more wishes." They're like, "Nice, kid. All right." That's enough of what I remember from that. So anyway, I was watching another one of these war movies, and then I saw these little Jewish kids having the blood drained out of them for the Nazi soldiers, and I'm like, hey, that Hitler guy's an asshole. Screw this. I'm going to Cochise. Okay, who was like the brother of Geronimo, I think. So representing the American Indians against, once again, American imperialism, the Yankees, who were devastating the Native American people, as the Lord willed it, as we see in the Book of Mormon. Even though it wasn't their fault they dwindled in unbelief because of the false beliefs and traditions of their fathers. I mentioned the hypocrisy of that the other day. We're not accountable for Adam's transgression, only our own sins, but the daughters of Eve are cursed because of Eve's transgression first, and of course, the American Indians were cursed because of that, and the seed of Cain, and all those Canaanites and the sons of Ham were cursed because, why? Or at least, Canaan was. Because somebody else screwed up. So that's completely hypocritical, because you're not, how right is it for you to be cursed because of what somebody else did? Even though you may have stress passed down in DNA from your parents, from them having traumatic experiences, that's God's fault, and we know that God's basically not very fair. The gods, whoever they are, I have no reason to give any credence to the Jewish Talmud and what's been brought into Genesis as the word of the Lord. Okay, so had to switch to Cochise, but he was getting his ass beat, and so that seemed kind of hopeless. And so then I moved to Robert E. Lee against the Yankees, but he was getting his ass beat, and so I thought, is there anybody that can beat the Yankees? These damned Yankees. Okay, don't let the hat hair get to you. It's been a few days since I've had a shower. That's all going to change today. That's right, the Brooklyn Dodgers, who moved to LA in 1959. I believe they played in the Coliseum, where USC plays their football games, where my grandfather went to dental school. And how could his father afford that? Just a painter, and sent both his children to very expensive private universities. Yes, my great uncle was like the president of Union Oil for a day. Chief geologist for a long time. I guess he wasn't into Skull and Bones or something, or whatever they had wherever he went. But so they didn't choose him as president and CEO when that guy died, where his seniority put him in that position. So how did my great-grandfather afford that? Well, my dad did leave a clue. Oh, David, your great-grandfather, he was a 33rd degree Freemason. Oh, so that's what hooked him up with all the B of A contracts. Okay, got it. Don't want to dwell on that sort of thing right now. So that's how it got to be the Dodgers, the underdog who at least occasionally beat the damn Yankees, who are basically the military. We're talking about the northern United States, the military arm of the trifecta kingdom, basically, right? The three cities, the three independent sovereign city-state countries, Washington, D.C., the Vatican, and the city, meaning the financial district of London. So, as a British colony, the Virginia Company, not a crown corporation, which is distinct from just the nation of Great Britain, which is a part of the United Kingdom, the crown corporation, or the city, and various investors who would be friends of, at that time, King George, etc., who was, of course, a prince of the Holy Roman Empire, and the entire sovereignty business about property rights, which that's why you have none, because you're a tenant in the United States, unless you're some rare person that owns something in Elodium, and I suspect that you're not. Read your deed, you're a tenant. And what is a tenant? The more you go back in Black's Law, the more you find out that your entire world picture is, well, it's not what you believed to be the case is not the case. You're not in a nation is not what you think it is. A nation is a plantation. It's privately owned. It's as privately owned now as when it was called the Virginia Company. A name change to the United States or the United States of America doesn't change who the owners who owns those shares. So at any rate, the arm of evil, the military arm of evil, the U.S. military industrial complex, etc., as guided by the puppets working for the Crown Corporation through what we call a government, which is not of the people, by the people, and for the people, and they represent the corporation, not its assets, such as you and I. I identified as that underdog and wanted a victory. So I wanted to pitch in the World Series for the LA Dodgers. Just didn't happen, and win against the Yankees. So yeah, that didn't happen, but it has happened. And so my new idol became, no, not Jesus of Nazareth. It became Sandy Koufax. Anyway, that's how we got to the Dodger thing. Let's generate a little feedback. Which one of my hats do you like the best? Then we're going into the time machine. Remember, at 13:33, it gets dangerous a little bit. In other words, I'm just going to sing, and I'm not perfect, and I get very traumatized. But I'm showing you now, since that's yesterday, that I'm perfectly normal. Well, functional. Here's my Surf Connection hat. Pretty cool, huh? Yes, I founded that company. The logo was not designed by me. Another one was, but I sold it a long time ago. Still in business. Just got this recently. Shout out to all my brothers on the Central Coast. 1,000 friends. Yeah, I got more hats and more shoes than most chicks do. What about it? Oh, do we give this one a name? The Black Golfing one. Okay. This one got screwed up in the washing machine. This is a Costa Rica. Pura vida. Costa Rica. But unfortunately, it's kind of lost some of its shape. Was cooler. Actually, I've got some other Costa Rica hats, but I planned to give them to people that I am related to. And they're still in a suitcase. After spending the winter there. Was I not wearing the Surf Connection hat? Did I just throw it? Okay, one more. Indianapolis 500. A little tweaked. It's tweaked, but I'm not. Hey, I've never tweaked, by the way. Never done coke. Never done any coke derivative like crack. Never shot heroin. Never shot anything other than probably had some tetanus shots or some penicillin. And, yeah. So all you people saying, do you do hits of acid before you do... Okay, only one person ever said that. I'm rarely intoxicated when I make these. I'm often very tired. I've got so much I have to do that it's difficult to get them out. I will, and I am going to wreck the 3 victories for Satan, saints, very scripted, very shortly on their apologetic dishonesty. Now enter the time machine. Okay, guess what? If I put this in front of the other video portion, then that blows the whole timing of 1333, interjection of my 1333 pictures, which actually happened right at the ending of one segment and going into another, purely by coincidence. Unless I'm guided by the Spirit. So I'm actually going to release that as a separate video after this one, I guess. So you will have been forewarned about watching me sing. But my daughter's stuff is before that. So you might want to check out her website, like full size and better sound than you're going to have redoing it coming through here. But it actually probably sounded pretty good. She's just the flow of everything she put together was amazing. I think writing the music, writing the lyrics, singing, doing the keyboards, doing the other like computerized stuff, mixing it, the video work, blending in. What can I say? I got smart kids. Yeah. Later. Like, subscribe, support, share. You got to do it because Google doesn't seem to be promoting me the way they promote all the guys that went to BYU and the girls that went to BYU and promote politically correct agendas on Christianity on 2 separate sides. Why is that? Couldn't be controlled opposition. Couldn't be the club they're working for and directed by